The California system for redistricting is drawn by commission. The last decade, Congress from California and the state legislature, the maps were drawn by the first commission ever after it had been passed by the voters. So we have 1 decade of commission maps to compare to legislative maps from the previous decade.
We report on this from 2010 to 2020. Many of the historically underrepresented groups such as Latinos, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, Native Americans represented a greater share of the people submitting initial applications. We found that the legislative strikes really decreased the number of Latinos in the finalists.
What we're looking at here is sort of the idea of descriptive representation, the idea of representation by one's own ethnic or racial group. We see that since those first commission maps, they're associated with higher levels of Latinos, African Americans, and Asian Americans in the legislature, but also in the congressional delegation.
There has been a lot of public criticism about the selection of commissioners and the diversity, especially along the number of Latino commissioners who are in the first 8, though of course there are 6 still to be chosen.
The fact that the first random draw resulted in 0 Latinos is something that we have to take seriously. Our selection process had a random process first, and then an intentional draw by those people who are randomly chosen at the rest of the pool to fill out that representation.
We come from the most diverse state in California, and our delegation, while not perfect in terms of representation, really in many ways because of this commission, really does reflect much of the diversity. In any case, there are some issues. We have a real problem on the front end doing outreach and making sure that Latinos and Latinas apply for the commission. On the back end, we have to really examine why there was such a high number of people, Latinos and Latinas, rejected by the state legislature. When we tried to first do this, we wanted to have a minimum impact by the elected officials because it's only natural they're going to try to protect themselves.
Race mixes with politics in very ugly ways. People will do things to protect their turf, especially in redistricting. That comes out. One of the things that we're all going to be seriously thinking about is making sure that the time for outreach is significant, perhaps introducing some greater transparency around the process for removing applicants. There may be even discussion about removing the legislature entirely from doing strikes or recalibrating the number so that you just have more room to look at the remaining pool and ensure that the diversity is representative.
Understand the unique challenges of reaching out to diverse communities, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Maybe a diversity of consultants need to be employed to really understand those challenges. It's a tremendous effort trying to get someone to fill out an application. So that's one way to try to increase the pool.
A state that's almost 40% Latino growing, over 30% of the electorate, doesn't have one representative.
This is such an important part of the state's population, and they really need to have representation in this final commission.
A critical next stage of this commission is the openness and the transparency in the process, and that people can get involved. Right now, we want a diverse commission. That's really what's important.